I don't mean that as a clever line. I'm 73 and those words have weight. They sit in my chest like an unpaid bill. Everyone warned me about failure. No one warned me about postponement. When I look back, the most expensive thing I ever bought wasn't a house or a car or a lifestyle. It was delay. I had a life that looked like success. I climbed the ladder, I checked the boxes, I answered emails at midnight. I took the promotions. I closed the deals. People congratulated me. They admired my discipline. No one ever pulled me aside and said, "This will cost you later." At 52, in the middle of a meeting I thought would make my quarter, the room tilted. My vision blurred. The fluorescent lights smeared into white. I remember the scrape of my chair, the smell of stale coffee, a colleague's hand trying to steady me. Then the hospital, sharp antiseptic, the hiss of a monitor. My wife shaking beside the bed. The doctors called it a cardiac event, a technical phrase that doesn't matter, except for one thing. It marks the moment the illusion dissolved. I could have died in that room. And lying there, I realized something terrifying. I had built my entire life on the assumption of extra time. Later for the trip, later for the conversation, later for the book I kept filing away as someday. Later became a habit, a comfort, a promise that helped me avoid the discomfort of choosing. Later meant I didn't have to decide what mattered most. Yet. But later is a moving target. It stretches to accommodate whatever you're afraid to face. And no one warns you that later charges interest. The cost of 50 years of later isn't one dramatic disaster. It's quieter than that. It's the sum of tiny losses that never make headlines. Vacations not taken. Conversations never finished. Apologies that grew heavier with time. Grandchildren known through photos instead of messy living rooms. Stack those omissions together, and one day you wake up with a life you recognize in pictures, but don't feel in your bones. Let me show you the math. I had a friend named Sam, 3 years ahead of me in the firm. Smart, capable, proud of his family. He talked about his son the way people talk about their favorite songs. Every year he said he'd slow down after the next quarter. He'd take the fishing trip next summer. He'd rest when we hit the target. No one warned him what that habit would cost. One year he didn't show up for a meeting. 2 weeks later, we stood at his funeral. He had planned a retirement full of things he never began. The cost to him was immediate. The cost to his family was a silence that never filled in. My father died when I was 45. We had a complicated relationship, practical, polite, unfinished. There were conversations I kept postponing, stories I never asked for, apologies I assumed I'd offer later. No one warns you that some doors don't wait. He died within hours of a heart attack, and I spent decades replaying sentences that were never spoken. That kind of cost can't be replaced. It follows you into meetings, into dinners, into quiet moments when the world slows down. Then there were the smaller shavings of a life. Japan. I always planned to go someday, when the timing was right, when work slowed down, when everything lined up. I watched videos, saved articles, made mental notes. I never booked the flight. My children grew up, had children of their own. I learned to love Tokyo secondhand, through postcards and screens. That's the hidden price of postponement. You don't lose dreams. You inherit them as memories you never lived. When I lay in that hospital bed, these weren't abstractions anymore. They were arithmetic. 21 years have passed since then. Years I wouldn't trade. Years that taught me something no promotion ever did. Postponement doesn't remove pain. It forwards it, with interest. Achievements piled up. Presence did not. Recognition arrived. Moments disappeared. And here's the part no one tells you. Productivity can quietly replace living if you're not paying attention. You may recognize this pattern. When the mortgage is paid, we'll travel. When the kids are grown, I'll start the book. When work slows down, I'll breathe. Those promises feel reasonable until they become a pattern. The goalpost keeps moving, and no one warns you that it's moving while you chase it. I'm not telling you this to shame you. I'm telling you because the cost can still be reduced. After that hospital bed, I didn't reinvent my life overnight. I made smaller, quieter changes. I slowed down, just enough to notice things again. Rain on hot pavement. The laugh my granddaughter makes when she loses a tooth. I started saying words I'd been hoarding. I'm sorry. I love you. Ordinary words. Dangerously postponable words. I booked trips that fit my life instead of waiting for perfect ones. Japan finally happened when I was 60. 2 weeks. Maps. Walking until my legs hurt. Not the dream I imagined at 25, but real. I wrote 30 minutes a day. No ambition to impress anyone, just pages that mattered to me. I said no to things that drained me without feeding my soul. That was uncomfortable at first, until I realized saying no was how I protected what I would later cherish. I forgave people sooner, not because they deserved it, but because bitterness charges interest too. And yes, there was grief. Facing what you postponed hurts. But grief is honest. Numbness is what really costs you. So let me ask you the question I asked myself under hospital lights. If you died tomorrow, would you be satisfied? Not impressed by your resume. Satisfied with how you spent your time. If the answer isn't yes, don't turn that into guilt. Turn it into clarity. Right now, name 3 things you would regret losing if you had to pack your life into a suitcase tonight. A relationship, a trip, a project you never started. These are the places where later is already sending the bill. Start small. Call someone tonight. 10 minutes is enough. Book one short trip. Not someday, but within 6 months. Work on your project for 30 minutes tomorrow. Say one sentence you've been postponing. These aren't miracles. They're payments. If I could tell my younger self anything, it would be this. Stop assuming time is generous. Choose fewer obligations and more memories. Learn to say no early. Forgive sooner. Begin now. Because here's the truth no one warned me about. 50 years of later doesn't destroy your life all at once. It buys it quietly. And one day, you realize what you paid with. If this resonated, write one thing you've been postponing in the comments. Make it visible. There's power in naming it. We were all told time would be plentiful. It isn't. And that doesn't make life tragic. It makes today important. Start now.